My name is James Vacca, and I'm chair of the Committee on Technology. Today is February 24th, and we're having our oversight hearing and a hearing on legislation, and I thank you all for coming, and I apologize for the delay in starting the meeting. I want to welcome you to the first meeting of this committee during this session, and my first hearing as committee chair. I'm looking very forward to working with everyone, my colleagues, and others in the public on technology-related issues that concern our city. And it's a new experience for me, I want you to know, so I'll be learning a great deal. But I'll be learning from people throughout our city who have input, and I welcome it. I begin my tenure as chairman with Intro 34, a bill that I'm sponsoring, which would require that all community board full board meetings, be webcast. And we will also hear testimony concerning the implementation of Local Law 103 of 2013, which requires that all public meetings be webcast. Having been a district manager of a community board for 26 years prior to joining the council, I can tell you I'm particularly in tune with the needs of community boards across the city. When I first became a DM, technology to broadcast full board meetings wasn't even a thought. It didn't exist. Today, with the prevalence of simpler and less expensive hardware in addition to high-speed internet to support it, webcasting is ever more present in government. As many of you know, webcasting is the distribution of video and audio via the internet to any personal computer or video-capable device connected to the internet. There are many advantages associated with webcasting of community board meetings. First, webcasting increases public access to government by allowing persons who cannot otherwise attend a community board meeting to stay informed about the board's activities. Also, on-demand video allows people to have complete access to these meetings according to their own schedules and at no cost. Webcasting and archival video permits people who are interested in these meetings but who do not wish to actively participate to save time and money. Finally, webcasting enhances New York City's image as open, accessible, transparent, and accountable. I understand that this webcasting requirement may appear burdensome on community boards. I understand that there are logistical issues and budget issues. Believe me, I'm not looking to implement legislation that cannot be implemented. And I will say that over and over again today because I know others who want to testify are not here yet. So I will reiterate that. I'm only looking to bring this level of government, the community board level of government, is the little city hall nearest to the people of our community. I'm only looking to bring that level of government nearest to the public into the public's living room. How do we do that? The logistics of it, the financial considerations, those are things we can work on after we have our hearing today, where we get your input before the bill is passed, if it is passed. You know, we have an open meetings law in New York State. It requires all state agencies and public authorities subject to the open meetings law to webcast their meetings, and the New York City Council has been webcasting their meetings for several years. I'm being webcast right now. So if I say it, I can't deny it. I still may say it, though, by the way. All covered entities are required to webcast their meetings before March 1st, 2014, and we're going to hear from the administration how we are implementing that. Right now, the law requires all public agencies, but the community boards are not included. So the administration will be testifying today on where are we in meeting the March 1st deadline for webcasting of all agencies separate from the community boards, and then we will also have testimony on my legislation which seeks to include the community boards. Okay? Without further being said, I want to introduce my fellow committee member, my colleague from the Bronx, Annabel Palma, who is with us, and I thank her. I'm sure more committee members will arrive. This is a very busy day for the City Council, as I'm sure you've noticed. We have several committees meeting all over the place. That's why, I apologize for the lines downstairs, and the security demands that we've implemented did require that lines be instituted based on all the hearings we have today. Okay, so why don't we lead off? Our first panelist is Jeff Merritt, Senior Advisor to the Mayor, and he will give us the administration position and give us input from the administration. Mr. Merritt.
There we go. Good afternoon, Councilman Vacca, Councilmember Palma, all the guests here today. I'm pleased to be here for the first of these committee meetings, and I'm looking forward to working more together with the council in the weeks and months ahead. My name's Jeff Merritt. I'm a senior advisor at the Office of Mayor Bill de Blasio. On behalf of the administration, I'm pleased to testify regarding the implementation of both Local Law 103 of 2013 and also regarding Introductory Number 28 of 2014. As you're aware, Local Law 103 of 2013 was signed into law on December 2nd, 2013, and it requires that public meetings and hearings held by city agencies, commissions, and task forces are digitally recorded and webcast live, where practicable, beginning March 1st. In the event that these meetings cannot be webcast, the recording would be made available on the internet within 72 hours of the meeting taking place. Now, this is a significant undertaking, but it's clearly a very important one. At present, the City of New York is involved in the work of more than 200 boards and commissions. According to preliminary research that we have, less than 5% of these boards and commissions currently webcast their meetings. Now, we have a lot of work ahead of us to make the city more transparent and accessible, and I'm confident that our city agencies are up for this challenge. In recent years, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment and the Department for Information Technology and Telecommunications has worked hand in hand with the City Council to bring live broadcast and streaming capabilities to the City Council chambers and the City Council's 250 Broadway committee rooms like we sit in today. The City of New York now has the largest municipality to carry live legislative hearings, and the city has also made these proceedings available on the air of the city's government television network, NYC Gov. Now, these accomplishments are the result of significant planning, investments in infrastructure, and strategic use of personnel. The investments being made for the City Council are now being considered at many public meetings and commission hearings as the city undertakes these meetings on a daily basis. The Mayor's Office is currently working with the Law Department to determine which public meetings pursuant to Article 7 of the Public Officers Law will fall under the guidelines set forth in Local Law 103 of 2013. As we work with city agencies, boards, and commissions to implement this law, there's a number of challenges that we're currently working through to carry out this major public policy initiative. First, equipment may vary significantly based on the setup and capabilities of each meeting location. Regardless of the hearing or meeting that is to be covered, basic technical needs must be established, including, but not limited to, a dedicated broadband connection, an encoding device, a hosting platform, and a storage solution. In addition, the city is reviewing the equipment investment that must be made for each city agency to ensure high-quality digital recordings that can be useful to all New Yorkers. Lastly, in order to make this service easily accessible for New Yorkers, it's important that the city develop a centralized and user-friendly web portal for these webcasts. Now, Introductory Number 28 of 2014 is being considered before the committee today and would require that each community board in New York City webcast their meetings live, where practicable, and that the recordings be archived and made available to the public within 3 days. The administration shares the goals of the City Council in ensuring that the meetings of the city's community boards are fully accessible to the public. As the administration works with agencies to implement Local Law 103, we'll review the ability of the city to provide assistance to community boards to carry out this legislation. At the outset, we do see challenges in being able to fully implement and carry out this legislation. For example, nearly all of the city's community boards hold their monthly meetings in the evenings. If these are events to be webcast by a city agency, this would require a significant investment both in equipment and personnel to travel to each of these community districts after business hours to record the meetings. The administration proposes that DoIT, MOM, and the Mayor's Office of Operations conduct a study that will enable us to make a realistic assessment of the needs and costs associated with making community board hearings more accessible to the public. In the coming weeks, as the city begins to implement Local Law 103, we look forward to updating you, Chairman Vacca, and members of the council on the progress, and we are committed to ensuring that New York remains a national leader in making sure that the business of the city is accessible to all New Yorkers.
I thank you for your testimony, and you did allude to some of the challenges that we face, but I appreciate the mayor's office being open to working on a plan to see what has to be done and how we can do it. I do know that there would probably be a financial commitment incurred, and I'd be willing to advocate, of course, for that money to be allocated to the boards should that be needed to have this type of webcasting take place. Let me ask you some questions.
Sure.
Can you explain how the cameras and hardware would be brought to a meeting? Is this equipment portable, or can you explain how that would work? Say, if a community board wanted to have a meeting webcast.
Sure. I think a lot of these questions will need to be worked out in sort of the weeks and months ahead. There is no one way to webcast a meeting. Obviously, we have this nice equipment here in the City Council. I believe the budget on this was about $1.5 million in equipment and infrastructure costs, and it costs the city about $500,000 a year to operate. Now, when we're talking about boards or community boards across the city, each of these meeting locations can vary dramatically in terms of the infrastructure. I think we want to be looking at all options. Some of them may be portable, but in most cases, we're going to want to use whatever infrastructure currently exists at those community board locations. So it is difficult to sort of outline what would be the best method until we do that full assessment. Ultimately, that assessment's going to have a major impact on the costs.
We now have some city agencies and commissions that are having their meetings webcast, don't we? What agencies are currently having their meetings webcast?
We do have some. I think we're going to hear from the Community Finance Board, which is a great example. I was representative on the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, and that was one that we would broadcast those. And I think that what we'll hear is that there's a lot of ways that you can broadcast these challenges, even within CFB. I can tell you that oftentimes we would have to make a last-minute change of a room, and something like that can cause a lot of chaos when it comes to actually hardware that you need to webcast these meetings. So there's definitely challenges. I think we want to learn from the best practices of the agencies, boards, and commissions that have already begun webcasting, and we want to take those all into consideration.
I did want to go into the agency that you think would be responsible for working with the community boards. You did say several agencies would be meeting to assess it. Who would be the lead agency, and what are we looking to do it? I know at this point some agencies don't have commissioners yet, so tell me about what agency do you think would be the lead agency, and what timetable for this group of agencies coming back are we looking toward?
So I do think it's a little early to tell which agency will be the lead here. Definitely we know that DoIT, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, will be critical in terms of their technical and issue expertise here. Also, the Department of Media and Entertainment, MOM, currently webcasts a lot of the large city events, and so we want to make sure that we're gathering their input. However, it is unclear the extent, and also this is going to, I think, come down to issues of cost, the extent to which we will have one agency that would be overseeing a lot of this versus sort of doing technical assistance and training, and the burden may get spread across multiple agencies. But it is hard to say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Councilmember Palma? Thank you so much. And I want to call upon Gale Brewer, Manhattan Borough President, former colleague, although I think she's still a colleague. She's always here. She's always present. And we have Eric Friedman, Campaign Finance Board.
Great. What an honor.
And we have Elisa Velazquez, representing Queensborough President Melinda Katze. Okay, we'll start off with Gale Brewer, okay?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here with your chairman and with the Councilmember Palma, so thank you very much.
And we've been joined by Councilmember Greenfield.
And Councilmember Greenfield. I think you know that I served for 12 years in the City Council before becoming Borough President, and 8 years as chair of this wonderful committee, so it's a particular honor to be here today. And I was also the prime sponsor of Local Law 103 of 2013, which was referenced earlier, and which requires that all public meetings be webcast. And I believe the only other agency that's somewhat similar, Taxi and Limousine Commission, does webcast. And in fact, just after passing my law, then David Yaskey, Commissioner, called me before I left the room, texted me and reminded me. So I want to thank you for this. I want to thank Colin Howe, whose counsel, who worked hard to pass Local Law 103. And I think it is exciting that it will require all public meetings by city agencies, committees, commissions, or task forces be webcast. It's an unprecedented level of transparency to municipal government. As we all know, the vast majority of public meetings take place during the standard workday, when many New Yorkers are working at their jobs. So by simultaneously webcasting or publicly posting video of important meetings, the New Yorkers and others will be able to view proceedings after the fact. This provides an important level of transparency and oversight, and I hope it leads to a more informed electorate, which is all of our goals. Although I believe strongly in the mission of webcasting all public hearings, as we heard earlier, this undertaking is not without its challenges. And as Borough President, I am now responsible for my own small agency that must webcast its Borough Board hearings. So we've been grappling with this. There are three facets to the challenge. One, the video capture of the event. Two, closed captioning of the event, which is required to conform to the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, and the online video distribution of the event. So just to give you an example of some of the challenges, because I love specifics. So obviously you'll capture the event, which currently is done by the amazing staff of the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, known as MOM. And now currently you have two choices. Here in the City Council, thanks to the funding that came from the franchise agreement, earlier you heard some numbers, I think 1-point-something million for capital and a expense. The capital money came from the Time Warner agreement of 2011, Time Warner and Cablevision, and the Verizon agreement of 2008. That's where the money comes for these amazing facilities here and at City Hall. But currently, for a new entity like the Borough Board or like City Planning Commission, the event would be captured, would take place. If DoIT would be then involved to transmit it. However, here at City Hall or here at 250 Broadway, there's a live stream from here to 34th Street, basically cable. It is not such availability at, for instance, 1 Center Street, where soon City Planning Commission will be located, Landmarks Preservation Commission is located there. So if you're going to do a video, so to speak, if you're going to do webcasting from 1 Center Street, right now there's no path that DoIT can use to be able to do the webcasting. So it wouldn't be real time, or it would be after the event, and that might mean, according to DoIT, putting it on YouTube and not actually on the website. So these are some of the issues that we're dealing with, and I would be interested to know what the Taxi and Limousine Commission, and we'll certainly hear from Campaign Finance. Neither our conference room at 1 Center Street nor the conference room in the state office building in Harlem were designed as television studios. So with the fantastic assistance of the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, we are in the process of identifying the necessary equipment to successfully capture our public proceedings. The equipment is not inexpensive, however, and I think small agencies are struggling with whether to invest in expensive technology, and they'll certainly need the help of the Mayor's Office to do that. It's about $20,000 to purchase the hardware just for one borough board for the entire year, but for the borough board. When we started Local Law 103, we envisioned many small agencies implementing simple webcasting arrangements where they would have one camcorder recording a hearing. I think that we know today, looking at the amazing hardware that's here, that we need something more of a higher quality with good sound. And not every agency has meeting rooms like this at their disposal, which makes webcasting more difficult. And we all know that another challenge is archiving. I actually don't know what the city councils, and I should, webcasting archiving protocols are. The state protocols are 4 months. Now, I don't know that they keep it longer or they just follow their protocols. And I don't know what Campaign Finance Board does, but the whole issue of protocol on archiving is another challenge that we need to address. So as we move forward with implementation of this law, I would ask that the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment and DO-IT, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, serve a more hands-on role, working with the various agencies on implementation, as I think they will. I know MOM has the expertise to assist with webcasting, and I believe we are stretched to the limits. I know they are stretched to the limits given their staff levels currently. DO-IT has a great staff, and I know they're dealing with their own logistical challenges. As I indicated earlier, we have been told that as an agency on the city's internet connection, as the borough president, we use CityNet, and we cannot live stream our hearings over this connection. Instead, we are being asked to procure a private broadband provider if we want to live stream because we are at 1 Center Street. And again, the issue of stressed bandwidth is not unique to DO-IT. But if New York City wants to continue to be a leader in the tech sector and municipal transparency, expanding our broadband capabilities, to me, is a wise investment, and that would mean figuring out, maybe part of the survey, where we have meetings and making sure that we have a connection to that building. So as we enter budget negotiations, I ask that everyone who supports the goal of webcasting consider increased funding for MOM and DO-IT so we can make this law in compliance. In the end, the benefits of webcasting far outweigh the costs. I think you know that. But agencies do deserve assistance with the capital investment. And they also need some initial hand-holding to make it happen. We have spoken at length with the New York State government who are webcasting in Albany. In fact, I remember there was a gentleman when they first started webcasting in Albany. I swear to God, he had a little red wagon. I'm not making this up. And he would pull his equipment in the red wagon to the meeting. I met him. He's alive and well, and he lives in, like, Saratoga. And he had a red wagon, and in it came to the meeting, and he set it up, and then out went the material on the red wagon. A little red wagon. I hope that's not true today. But they are struggling with some of the same issues. They started a long time ago in the state, and in particular smaller meetings in rooms that were not designed for audio or video recording. However, overall it appears that many state agencies have found ways to webcast. Once initial equipment investments have been made and at least one dedicated technical staffer identified, there's not a lot of ongoing support needed. For example, in the past 2 weeks, there have been webcast meetings of the Cemetery Board, the Public Authorities Control Board, Empire State Stem Cell Board, the Dormitory Authority, and I always watch the Hudson River Park Advisory Board. I'm an addict to that one. Although we must recognize the difficulties faced by agencies in their initial compliance with the webcasting requirement, I think the state's relative success indicates it's possible to comply. So now I want to talk about Chairman Vacca's bill. I'll just close with a brief mention on that bill, Intro 28 of 2014. We know that it talks about community boards, full board meetings being webcast, and you hear from phenomenal district managers today. I certainly agree with this, and I think that this is where I would find the challenges. First of all, you should know that Community Board 6 in Manhattan, thanks to the support of funding from then Council Member Jessica Lappin, does do webcasting. I talked to the chair and to the district manager. And it is a last full board meeting, for instance, they could get audio but not video because of the nature of the room, even though they had the equipment. And they found that out during the proceedings. So there are lots of glitches. And I think as the community boards get more sophisticated, and we're certainly working on that in Manhattan with technology, it will make a big difference. I know that other boards are working with staff, particularly graduate students, to be able to figure out how to help them with anything they can do in terms of webcasting. So I do think that the community boards, and you here, have a particular challenge because of how do you lug the equipment to the full board meetings, which are not necessarily on site, and then how do you make sure that there is not only the full board meetings, but perhaps even some of the more interesting discussions that take place at the committee meetings, which again require constant vigilance in terms of support financially and training. So this is all hopefully something that we're going to get done in 2014. I certainly look forward to working with you, and I hope this provided some sunlight on the issues that we're all working on together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Vacca and Councilmembers Palma and Greenfield. I'm especially pleased to be sitting on such a distinguished panel. Both Borough President Brewer, who I guess I've been with her on this side of, but sitting next to her on this issue. She's been a leader on this issue for a while, so I'm very pleased to be here. My name is Friedman. I am Assistant Executive Director for Public Affairs at the New York City Campaign Finance Board. My colleagues at the CFB and I thank you for the opportunity to testify here today about our experiences webcasting public meetings of the board. Essential aim of the Campaign Finance Board is to encourage more New Yorkers to access the political process. Our work amplifies the voice of average New Yorkers by making their small contributions to candidates more meaningful, and offers New Yorkers a window into the political process by providing a trusted source of information about candidates, campaigns, and elections. So disclosure and openness is fundamental to our work. Since our inception, we have sought to apply new technologies to the mission of greater transparency. We have provided online access to campaign finance information, for example, filed by campaigns, long before open data became a rallying cry for those seeking information about the workings of government. When it became clear to us that readily available technology could help us provide greater access to our meetings, hearings, and events, we moved ahead. Since March of 2011, the CFB has been webcasting public meetings and hearings of our board, of our Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, as Mr. Merritt alluded to, and other events of interest. The demand for the service became immediately clear. Over the past 3 years, nearly 3,000 viewers have logged more than 100,000 minutes watching more than 60 events over our live stream. The audience is significant, but it is certainly modest, as are our needs. We broadcast a standing monthly meeting of our board and a limited number of other events spread throughout the year. Thankfully, we found we were able to meet our needs with a modest investment. To create the video, we purchased a camcorder and a dedicated computer, which we use in conjunction with a previously existing sound system we've used to amplify and record our board meetings. To stream and archive the video, we use Livestream, a service based here in New York City. Both the video stream and the archive are embedded on a dedicated page on our agency website. And we've uploaded some of these events and videos to our agency's YouTube page as well. Borough President Brewer mentioned some of the challenges with an arrangement like this. You know, the quality of our stream is certainly not up to, neither the quality of the equipment nor the quality of the stream is up to the standards set by the City Council and its streams. But, you know, since we are a non-mayoral agency, we've had the freedom to go out and find our own solution, and we found one that I think meets our needs pretty well. We commend the Council for Local Law 103 of 2013, which requires that all public meetings be webcast, and for today's consideration of Intro 28. which would extend the requirement to community boards. There are many ways for New Yorkers to engage with government, but not nearly enough do. So requiring agencies, commissions, city council committees, and community boards to conduct their business in full view of anyone with the web browser can and will help make government more understandable, accessible, and open. And it's important, as you are today, to get a wide range of comment and sort of on the challenges ahead. So we hope our experience can be instructive in this regard, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yes, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Elisa Velazquez, and I am counsel to Queens Borough President Melinda Katze, and Chair Vacca, and members of the Technology Committee. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon to discuss Intro 28, which would amend the city charter to require that all the full community board meetings be webcast online. As has been discussed here by the other members of this panel and by the mayor's office, the community boards are a vital part of our government, serving as local representative bodies. There are 59 community boards throughout the city, each comprised of up to 50 volunteer members. The boards act as independent city entities addressing the needs of their respective communities by dealing with things like land use issues, liquor license approvals, traffic noise, and other quality of life issues that concern and impact their particular districts and constituents. And despite the commitment and hard work of our community boards and community board members, many city residents are unaware of what they do or might be poorly informed. So the Queens Borough President, who is a huge fan of transparency, wholeheartedly believes that webcasting these meetings will increase public awareness and participation in the community, and most importantly, increase transparency within local government. Despite the benefits of webcasting, there are several logistical and cost issues that must be addressed, and those have been raised here. So just by way of quickly kind of pointing some of the things out, webcasting obviously requires the equipment to capture, transmit, and store video. There are significant initial one-time expenses for equipment and for training, as Borough President Brewer described. The community board budgets are very small, and many of the boards have not had technology upgrades or technology improvements for years. Second, as community-based organizations, boards, particularly in Queens, use shared or donated space that do not have the reliable, high-speed internet access required for live streaming. Furthermore, many of the community boards host their monthly meetings in different locations each month, making the issue of streaming more complicated because they move all over the community. In addition to needing internet access, there are the costs associated with hosting and archiving video footage. So getting the footage but then archiving it is a whole other kettle of fish. So in order for there to be full compliance, funding will have to be forthcoming in order to ensure that the basic infrastructure exists at the community boards to comply with the requirements of Intro 28. The Borough President also urges coordination between the community boards, the City Council, the Mayor's Office, CFB, and other agencies that are already streaming hearings and meetings to share or leverage whatever technology solutions are already out there and are already being utilized, so that indeed the Borough President's office on the Borough Board side and the community boards would be able to take advantage of this. So kind of as an alternative to funding, right? You know, if you have a way, CFB has a way of doing something, the City Council has a way of doing something, is there any opportunity to piggyback on whatever's already happening to make it easier and ease some of the economic burden on the community board, certainly on our office for the live webcasting of the Borough Board. So in closing, the Borough President fully supports measures that will increase transparency, oversight, and public participation. However, in order for those measures to be successful, the city must also provide the financial support to achieve that goal. So we urge the council to consider this when considering Intro 28. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. I have some questions from council members. Councilmember Greenfield and then Councilmember Palma.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the panel for your testimony. Especially want to thank Gale Brewer, who for years has been a leader on transparency and using technology in an effort to bring transparency to the city and the citizens of the city. And I want to tell you how grateful I am for that. And also, I want to recognize the work that the CFB does to try to publish all of the information as quickly and transparently as possible. You guys even have a Twitter feed where you're pushing out all the info, and so we're certainly grateful for that. I just want to note a couple of things. You know, today's schedule is actually a good example of why we need to broadcast and archive hearings. At this current moment, we have 4 concurrent hearings going on in the New York City Council. We have this committee. We have transportation is still going on. We have health is still going on, and we have rules that's has either just started or is about to start. The reality is that we can't be in all places at once, and I serve on several of those committees, so I'm going to have to hop in a moment. But by having it online, we will have access, and we have that ability, and you could actually watch several of them at the same time online, and you could also access them digitally. I did just want to mention on your point, I think it's a good point, and I'm actually reading the testimony in advance, and I want to give a shout out as well to one of the chairs of my community board, Alvin Berk, who's hardworking and conscientious chairman at Community Board 14 in Brooklyn. And he makes many of the same points that you made, which is that there are certainly financial and technical issues. And I think the answer to that is that we have to address them, and certainly we should look at how we could address those issues, but I don't think we should use them as an excuse for not implementing something. I think that the City of New York, with the resources we have, a $75 billion budget, we certainly should be able to figure out a way how it's done. I hope it's better than the red cart. I actually remember that guy pushing the cart as well. So I hope we can do it better than the fellow with the red cart. But, you know, I'll tell you, I recall that during the days of Occupy Wall Street, there were people literally were live blogging the activities. So there must be a way to do it where we should work with the appropriate offices, where if we got the technology and the money, we certainly could get it done. So Gale, I'm kicking this to you specifically because you're our guru on all things technological. Do you see a cost-efficient way where we in the city could perhaps maybe even attach to this legislation, add funding and a mandate to a specific office that could perhaps take on this responsibility, so that way we can make it feasible? We certainly don't want to give our community boards an unfounded or unreasonable mandate.
Well, 2 things. Before you came in, I indicated that Councilmember Lappin, when she was in the City Council, gave money to Community Board 6 in Manhattan, and they are doing webcasting. There have been glitches, hardware glitches, but they're doing it. And I've done it before this fancy equipment. We webcast all of the technology hearings with the CFB manner, which is a laptop and a camera. So you can do it. The question would be to look at, as the Mayor's office indicated when they spoke, what would be the overall community board dollar figure for the low cost and the higher cost. One question I have is there any franchise money left? This is all franchise money. And I was told nobody seems to know. So one of the questions would be, could that money be used for the agencies or for the community boards? There may be some capital monies left, and goodness knows what Comcast and Time Warner are doing, but if they have to come back to the city, boy, would I negotiate for money for this enterprise, as well as other things. So I think you have a low cost and a higher cost option, and figure out what's transferable and transportable, which is different than CFB, where they can be in one location. So webcasting is can be not expensive. You pay for what you get. I think I've seen the state hearing take place in different locations. Look at them. In a sense, some of them are similar to community boards because they're all over the state. So I think there's plenty of room for flexibility in terms of the costing. It can easily be done. Board 6 is doing it.
I appreciate that. And I don't think, I mean, the expense shouldn't be huge, right? I mean, for $1,000, fair to say, you probably can get something up and running.
You can pay a little bit more for higher quality, but yes.
Yeah. Well, so my only point would be that I think we should find a way as the council to actually fund these. Most of our community boards are already pretty strapped with the work that they do, and they're certainly working overtime. It doesn't seem like a massive expense for us to invest and possibly come up with training as well so that we have the ability to get that done.
Right. And again, just to piggyback on that, it's important to keep in mind that this whole notion that a lot of the community boards travel. and they go to different locations. So while it might be there might be an inexpensive alternative for a community board that stays put every month. It could be a little different for a community board that travels. So that's important to keep in mind. And also, too, in terms of budgeting and funding, you know, the borough president's offices, the community boards are not mayoral agencies. So, you know, depending on how money is allocated, you want to make sure that it really gets directly to the boards or to the borough president's offices so that, you know, we're able to do what we need to do with that.
I think my only point that I want to make is I think these are excellent points. I think these points are all solvable and should be addressed.
Absolutely.
And I think in the year 2014, we certainly can figure out how we can get it done. And I certainly agree with you that the responsibility should be on us rather than on you and the community boards to figure that out. But we shouldn't provide you with an unfunded mandate, and we, I'm sure, could try to figure out how we can get you the resources and the funding. But we should, when we look at it from that perspective, I think it's something that certainly should be doable. And I'll have to tell you one final point, which is I think that the work that community boards do, by and large, are underappreciated. They do phenomenal work, and folks would be very impressed to see the professionalism and the way, the dedication these folks run, especially considering that these are unpaid volunteers. And so, like I said, I speak from personal experience, including experience of the chair of Community Board 14, who's here, and the work that he does. I know there are many other members of the community board and chairs who are here today. I want to thank them for their service as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Palma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to recognize the good work, Madam Borough President Brewer, that you've done on this issue and your leadership, and for continuing to collaborate with the City Council to make sure that we can get this done in a way that's not going to be burdensome to offices like yours and community boards. In your testimony, you raised the issue that for your borough board, you're looking about $20,000 in capital costs, and I'm just curious to know, is that to equip one specific room, or what would that $20,000 entail?
It would equip 2 rooms, one at 1 Center Street and another one in Harlem, where we have a district office. So it would be 2 rooms, and the equipment would be, you know, somewhat flexible, but you do need cameras that have this kind of quality to a large extent, and you can see what's here. So that's what is.
And when you say flexible, meaning flexible to that location, or can you?
Or in some cases, it might be able to be moved. I don't know. Obviously, when you have a town hall meeting, you have other opportunities for engaging the public, and that's what we would like to see. Something that's somewhat flexible. But one of the biggest problems is the lack of fiber coming to 1 Center Street.
And then, given the limited resources that your office faces, right, the financial constraints that your office faces as well, has there been an assessment done on the ongoing cost to maintain, like, the equipment, or?
Yeah, I don't think there's too much. I think we can handle that staff-wise. It's mostly the upfront costs. Okay. And then, since I know how to do it myself, but we can find staff to run it. That's not the problem. It's just the upfront cost, and then making sure that it's flexible enough to go elsewhere if we have meetings at our town halls.
And do you know, in Community Board 6, with the startup money that former Council Member Lappin gave, was the community board required to go through any training?
Turns out the chair works for an IT company and is totally comfortable with all technology. I will say that it is true that if there's some in the room here too, some district managers who are similar, or chairs, you do need somebody on staff. You need to do training also, but it does help to have a volunteer member or staff who's knowledgeable. At this point, that's kind of where we're at, but training will be necessary. This is an unusual situation.
And I'm glad to see some of the district managers and board members from the Bronx. I'm looking forward to hearing the testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank our panel. Our next panel is Craig Hammerman, Community Board 6 in Brooklyn, Alvin Berk, Brooklyn Community Board 14, Wally Rubin, Community Board 5, Manhattan. Mr. Hammerman, would you want to start, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and Councilmember Palma down there. My name is Craig Hammerman. I'm the District Manager for Brooklyn Community Board 6. At its general meeting on February 12th, our board resolved unanimously to conditionally support City Council's Intro 28, which would require community boards to webcast their meetings. Our condition, simply put, is that the City Council either provides us with the resources to pay for this mandate or find a way for us to get it done. You can't mandate that the community board serve as a planning entity without giving all of us access to planning resources. Despite our repeated requests for assistance over the years, with the exception of trailblazers like former Manhattan Borough President, now City Controller Scott Stringer, our pleas have consistently fallen on deaf ears. You can't mandate that the community boards disseminate important information to our communities without cost of living increases to keep up with postage and other increased expenses, which enable us to maintain an active internet presence. The value of the information that agencies entrust us with to disseminate rises in importance over time, while our budgets lag further and further behind. You certainly can't mandate that the community boards record and webcast our meetings as Intro 28 would require without providing technical support and resources. You can change the charter to mandate that the community boards perform brain surgery, but you'd be setting us up all to fail. It's unwise and unfair. Personally, I would love to see board meetings webcast, probably more than most of you. I'm confident that many of my colleagues feel the same way. I've agonized about it and only dreamed of it until now. Community boards deserve to join the ranks of the rest of government, but if you're going to legislate this as a mandate, that makes you culpable for getting us there. There's really only two ways we can do this, the hard way and the smart way. You can cost out the amount it would take for us to provide this service, including the acquisition of equipment, production, editing, and storage costs, additional staff, and other unforeseen incidentals. Incorporating this new responsibility will disrupt our existing functions and responsibilities and will involve an opportunity cost. Expenses across the 59 boards will range, so too will the quality and format of the products. In the end, this option will guarantee the loss of any economies of scale, in addition to the loss of both efficiency and effectiveness. That's the hard way. If we do it the smart way, the Council would use its powers to require that the franchisees holding telecommunications agreements with the City be mandated to broadcast community board general meetings. We would also ask that the full, unedited products be made publicly accessible as official records of our proceedings. All public bodies should be assured a consistent, high-quality, professional record of their meeting. Let the professionals do it. The public deserves no less. Intro 28 places us at a crossroads. It seems to me the rational thing would be to consider the following course of action. First, withdraw or delay adoption of Intro 28 until we have an executable implementation plan. I, for one, would love the opportunity to work with you to develop that plan, and I have some experience to offer. From 2007 to 2011, I had the honor of serving as a commissioner appointed by then Public Advocate Betsy Gottbaum to the City's Commission on Public Information and Communications. One of my responsibilities was to make recommendations regarding the application of new communications technology to improve public access to city-produced or maintained information. It starts with a plan. Second, legislatively, it's worth revisiting Section 1063 of the City Charter, which outlines the franchisee's responsibilities to the City regarding cablecasting and broadcasting of public proceedings of City government. This section of the City Charter, enacted more than a generation ago, must be brought into the 21st century to require live streaming and webcasting options. In this age of open data, it is government's job to safeguard the rights of the public to free access to proceedings through popular and available transmission media. Third, it is worth revisiting Section 1063B of the City Charter, which says that the Council and its committees and the City Planning Commission shall make their public meetings and hearings available for cablecasting and broadcasting. Instead of inserting the requirement that community board meetings be webcast within Section 2800, which defines community boards' duties and responsibilities as Intro 28 suggests, it would make more sense to insert the requirement within Section 1063B. This would reinforce the notion that community boards are not and should not have to become professional broadcasters. Lastly, let's commit to getting this done now instead of back-burnering it because the road you're on may have just gotten a little bumpier. We shouldn't have to wait one moment longer for the public to have access to our proceedings. Let's get this done now, and let's get this done quickly, so we can turn our attention to finding the supplements necessary to cover our unfunded planning mandate, our unfunded cost of living increases, and any other unfunded mandates we are expected to perform. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, we must all hang together, or assuredly, we shall all hang separately. So let's work together on this, let's get this done, and let's do this the smart way, not the hard way. Thank you.
I very much want to thank you for your thoughts. You put a lot of work into this, and I appreciate this. Is very thoughtful. You've come up with good ideas, and you describe the obstacles we're against, which I know the obstacles. But you've come up with some good ideas, Greg. I thank you very much, really. I appreciate that you did all this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to welcome Steve Matteo, my colleague from Staten Island, who has joined us. Chairman Berk.
Thank you very much, Chairman Vacca, council members.
How many years are you chairman, Alvin?
25.
I know.
But I'm not the longest serving chair in Brooklyn. That honor or distinction goes to Pearl Miles' chair, Jacob Goldstein, whom I believe has been chair for 34 years.
Oh, boy.
And Jake is 20 years younger than I am, too. Having heard the excellent testimony of my very capable colleague, Craig Hammerman, I'm going to modify my own testimony. Because I think that what Craig is pointing out is the complexity of doing community board webcasting and telecasting. Our board we operate by the committee system, as the council does. We have 23 different committees. In 2013, we had 23 committee meetings. They were not held the same nights as our board meetings. They were held in addition to our 10 board meetings. We also held 28 public hearings spread over 9 different occasions. So in a single year, we have over 40 meetings that qualify under the public meetings law. And we would want, given that most of our business is conducted at the public hearings and our committee meetings, we would want those to be telecast as well, webcast as well, or cablecast as Craig offers as an opportunity, as an alternative. There may be a lesson if there is no recourse available through the franchise rules, then there may be an opportunity to have one of the mayoral agencies, or either do it or MOM or both, look at the boards and assess the board's needs, and then come up with a plan that meets each of the community boards' individual needs. Whether they offer the technical support to implement the plan is another question. But we, for example, move our board meetings between 2 different public schools, one in the northern part of our board and one in the southern part of our board, in order to avoid any appearance of regional preference. We would need to telecast or webcast from both those locations. We hold our public hearings, for the most part, at our centrally located board office. We would need to webcast from there. So we have at least 3 locations that we need. We would need the technical assistance that Craig Hammerman has alluded to, and Ms. Velazquez alluded to, the representative of the Queensborough president, in order to cover all those. When we do public hearings on land use, Chairman, when we do a zoning variance or a special permit, a BSA special permit, we have a detailed examination of the plans that are brought by the architect or the representative of the applicant at our public hearings. Those plans would have to be visible to be useful as in the instance of in the interest of transparency. Those plans and our examination of the plans would have to be visible to the public. We also have, at our public hearings, we have people speaking from the audience. We need to be able to mic them. Audio is a terrible problem. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate that. And so we're not here to oppose, and I don't have an official resolution on the part of my board. I'm speaking as an individual who observed the practices of my board for 25 years. And what I want to do is just bring some of the complexity to it. So if we can't go the franchise route, the lesson that may be applicable here may have to do with the individuality of the board's rents. That individual community boards, the rent is not included in the board budget. It's taken offline because of geographic variations in the rents that boards have to pay for their locations. So we would want a solution that would be similarly flexible to that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And you raise an excellent point regarding the miking. That is an excellent point.
Thank you.
Because you could have one stationary mic that would serve the chairperson and district manager who sit together and who basically facilitate the meeting, but then you have 40 to 50 members, and what do you do with a microphone system? So I've dealt with meetings where there is a person who's hearing impaired, for example, who has the microphone system, and then you have to shift that microphone system to each person as they speak. And although this person who's hearing impaired has absolutely the right to hear, it becomes distracting to people when that happens.
Yes.
And
So
I don't want to distract.
You have a major hurdle to get over here. It's a technologically challenging issue, but you're up to the task.
We're going to be up to it.
It's not just money.
Help.
It's not just money. You have to get the mayor to support it technologically.
And you know, it's the mayor supporting it, and I also think that it's community boards buying into it, and I think you have and Greg has. You know, we all just can't say it's impossible to do, it's a headache, and we don't want to be bothered, and I haven't heard that from anyone, so from you and from Craig so far, and I really appreciate that. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's a challenge, but I think so much of what we've accomplished is challenging. Things are not going to be done for everyone overnight, and we have to understand that this will be a work in progress, so I appreciate all your input.
Thank you.
John Fratta, I go back with how many years, but John Fratta was former district manager of Board 11, and he's now continuing to service them. So I thank you for coming, John.
Thank you, Councilman Vacca, members of the council. We here, Community Board 11, is in total support of the concept of openness and transparency. We think it's a great idea. We have some concerns, like all the other boards, I'm sure. You know, we've come a long way. Not too long ago, our community boards still had typewriters. And then we graduated to computers. And now Community Board 11 has a web page. We have a Facebook page. So we're trying to get the word out. The concerns that we have with this, with Intro 28 and the implementation of this is, where's the money going to come from? Where's the staffing going to come from to really handle the equipment? You know, I don't have to tell you, members of the City Council, under the previous administration, there wasn't a year that went by that the mayor wasn't proposing to slash our budgets. And yet it was you council members that saved us year after year. But our budgets have been stagnant for over 20 years with no increase. So our real concerns are really the money. We also want to know, are we doing live streaming or just recording and then showing afterwards? There are a lot of questions we have, and we want to work with the council and help implement this project because we think it's a great project and it's something that the public really does have a right to see. You know, many times we make decisions at the community boards and you'll hear members of the public saying they didn't know about it or what were we trying to hide. This way, all our decisions are open and are really transparent. So we look forward to working with you and doing whatever we can to help implement this, but we do need the money, and that's the bottom line. Thank you.
I thank you. You know, I do have to tell you all a story. I remember being district manager in the 80s, and I had a young lady who's no longer with us. Her name was Catherine Scott, and she brought in a word processor. She said to me, Jimmy, I'm getting it for free, and it was from the New York City Department of Salvage. So this was something that was being thrown away. And she went there to get it for the community board, and I told her at that time, Catherine, we have typewriters. Why are you using this? And she said to me, this is going to be the future. You better get with it. And I says, this won't last a year or two. And then, of course, the word processor became antiquated. But I remember her getting it from the Department of Salvage at that time. I thought it was a piece of junk.
Including cell phones.
You know? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Pearl Miles, Brooklyn, Community Board 9. Catherine McVeigh Hughes, Community Board 1 in Manhattan. Ken Kearns, Community Board 10 in the Bronx.
I'll be speaking for Catherine McVeigh Hughes.
Identify yourself. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm Noah Pfefferblit.
Noah. Oh, Noah?
Noah, yes.
Noah, come on up. Have a seat. And identify yourself in the microphone.
I definitely will. I got it from you later.
Ms. Miles, would you go first, please?
You want the copies? Yeah, copies.
Hi, Chairman Vacca, Councilmember Palma, and Councilmember Mateo. My colleague, Craig Hammerman, pretty much said all the things that needed to be said about this matter. My board members, my chairman and my board members, they also have those same concerns. We are really concerned about the implementation of this unfunded mandate, which is our major concern. We also have the concern that where we have our board meetings, it's at a school, public school. It's centrally located, but the school has the ancient wiring. Many times we take our equipment there and the outlets spark and we blow our fuses and things on the equipment. So that also is something to take into account, the infrastructure where we have our meetings, and probably some of my other colleagues. It's pretty much the feeling of our board that webcasting is really where we're at and where we're moving from. We cannot move away from this. It's not going to happen. So we support it, but we need to be able to have the resources to implement it. So we're asking that while we're wholly in favor of transparency, we ask that the Committee on Technology consider delaying any action in Intro 28 so that they may fully address the legitimate concerns for our members regarding the lack of a well-thought-out implementation plan, including the provision of adequate startup and ongoing funding for community boards to undertake this critical responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, as I mentioned, my name is Noah Pfefferblit, and I'm the district manager for Community Board 1, Manhattan, and our chair just informed me she was not able to make it, so I'll be giving a testimony similar, I think, to what some of the other people have commented about the proposed intro this afternoon. Our executive committee at Community Board 1 discussed the proposed intro last week on February 19th, and we did pass a resolution about it, which will come before our full board at our meeting tomorrow on February 25th. We supported the principles of transparency and accessibility to government data and proceedings that would be advanced by webcasting and archiving full board meetings on community board websites. However, we do have serious concerns that, as other people have noted this afternoon's hearing, Intro 28 does not provide resources and funding to carry out these additional responsibilities and is unclear about what process or system would be put in place to webcast the meetings and archive them on a website. We urge in our resolution that Intro 28 not be adopted unless it includes a clear requirement that the city provide the additional funding, resources, and personnel that would be needed to carry out these tasks. And moreover, we called in our resolution for the webcasting and archiving of our meetings and all associated tasks that would be required by this intro to be carried out by an external agency such as DoIT, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, so that the funding cannot be eliminated from community board budgets in the future while these new responsibilities continue to be required. And we know, as has been noted, Chairman Vacca, you're a former district manager in the Bronx for many years, so you're aware that community boards carry out a myriad of important responsibilities, including many that are mandated by the city charter, and that the minimal amount of funding and resources that we receive from the city to carry out these tasks is threatened on an almost annual basis and has been for many years. So we are therefore concerned about the possibility that if Intro 28 is adopted and no external entity is required to carry out the tasks associated with it, even if additional funding to implement it is added to community board budgets, that funding could thereafter be eliminated in a subsequent year due to budget cuts. And we therefore believe it is essential that either, as I mentioned, an external agency be required to carry out the tasks, or that some other reliable mechanism be found that could prevent the video and webcast requirements from becoming unfunded obligations. I think we've seen this in the past. Sometimes we have new tasks. They allocate a little money, even for personnel. I remember this happened once with a pass-along for the union increases, and the next thing you know, there's a recession and they're threatening to take the money out. But of course, we have to continue to pay the money. So we don't want something like that to happen. More generally, I wanted to just take a moment to note that with the new administration and new council leadership in place, we hope that consideration will be given to increasing funding for community boards so that we will have the funding and resources that we need, not only for Intro 28, which would be great, but also for all the essential services that we provide to improve quality of life throughout the city. And that's what I have to say. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. And I do want to tell you that the mayor has indicated that the budget dance is over and that we will not be dancing anymore about the budget. So the community board should be okay. The community boards, the borough presidents, the firehouses, and so many other things that we used to have a budget dance, what I call it and what we all call it. Those dancing days are finished. And
now the community boards can dance on camera.
Now you can dance on camera.
Well, if the budget dance is over, I'll do a dance at the next board meeting.
For the record, this is Mark Weprin, my colleague from Queens.
Thank
but he is right, of course. Mr. Kearns?
Good afternoon. Honorable Chair, members of the City Council Committee on Technology. My name is Kenneth Kearns. I'm District Manager of Bronx Community Board 10. And I'm joined by my colleague, Xavier Rodriguez, from Community Board 5. My purpose here today is to offer comment on Intro 28. Bronx Community Board 10 believes that the idea of providing open access to community board deliberations via webcasting to provide open, transparent government is a laudatory goal. However, the boards believe that if webcasting became law, the city administration and city council must allocate funding to implement the mandate. Bronx Community Board 10 recommends that Do It, or the citywide public access channel such as BronxNet, be retained and charged with the responsibility of providing webcasting for all 59 boards. That the contractor or contractor providing the webcast service must commit to travel with those boards that meet at different locations and conduct webcast activities from those locations. That a training program be established for staff and board members, chairperson and secretary particularly, concerning the webcasting and the laws surrounding it and by the appropriate city agency. The Community Board 10 recommends that a central repository be established where the tapes, the masters, can be stored, with copies sent to the relevant community board. Community boards strongly urge that funding must be allocated for the boards to publicize the webcasting operations. As other speakers before me had said, we are very concerned that this could possibly become an unfunded mandate, and we really do lack the funds, and we haven't had an increase in many, many years, and we're doing the best that we can with what little we have. So we'd be happy to help, and we agree, and we're more than happy to see it come. Just, please give us the resources to do it, and you'll have it. And thank you.
Thank you. I do want to know for the record that I've raised this with BronxNet several years ago, and they didn't see fit to do it. So I think there would be room on their schedule for this to take place, but I've been told that they're not going to do it. But the idea is good, and many of your ideas are good. Any questions? Mark Weprin? Yes.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, and everybody else for being late. I was at a meeting, and now I have to run to another meeting, so I apologize. I just want to get on the record a little bit on this idea. I love the idea of the public being able to see the community boards in action. I've always been a big proponent of legislatures and judiciary and the community boards to be on camera, because I find it does increase the respect people have for government when they see it on camera. I also think that people tend to comport themselves in a better manner, despite my comment about the dancing. I just think it's better for the whole public in general, and as long as it's done properly. I agree wholeheartedly that you can't have the community boards paying for this out of their budgets, and you need to set rules on how it should be done. So we need some type of centralized forum to do this if we're going to do it, that it's done by the city, they pay for it, they figure out ways to set it up or coordinate how to set it up. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing, because I do think it's an important issue and one that makes a lot of sense. The public has a right to see how their community boards are working, and community boards in particular, you know, are in the middle of the week often and run long, and people can watch it at home. It really would be better for everyone that people are involved. So thank you again. And thank you all for being here.
I should say, I'm stopped constantly by people who see me on crosswalks, and they watch the city council hearings. Jimmy, we saw you on TV, and I say, when did you see me? They said, well, we watched crosswalk. We watched the entire hearing. I said, you did? And I'm complimented in one way, but then my question to them is, well, were you having trouble sleeping? Because these hearings are on at 3:30 in the morning, and, you know, I take it personally when they say, no, that hearing you had put me to sleep after all, so, you know. But it's their right, and they often tell me how they really understood much better what my committee was doing at that time was transportation, the issues that we were discussing, the policies, the legislation, and many people want to know more about what's going on. They want to see their council members interacting with agencies, and they want to see the process, and they're interested in government, and we have to encourage that. And as I said before, I believe in this. I believe the community boards need to be seen by the public they represent, because that's your way of outreaching to those people. You know, when I was a DM, I often, and I should say, shifted the meetings. Every month we went to a different meeting place, and that was an attempt to reach out to different communities. But I have to say that when we did that, maybe there were 15 or 20 people in the audience that were different from the people that were there the month before. This gives community boards an opportunity not just to shift your meetings for those 15 or 20 people. It gives you an opportunity to have a much wider audience. It really gives you an opportunity to reach out more than just shifting the meeting for 15 or 20 people or to placate a certain civic association. It gives you a chance to reach people who you normally would not reach, who would not attend the meeting regardless of where you held it, who work 2 jobs, who have kids at home, who maybe caught your telecast at an off hour when they were not busy doing other things in their very busy lives. And those are the people that can come forth with good suggestions. They can help, they can volunteer perhaps, they can be on email list. You'd be developing a base of support, and that's what we all need in our neighborhoods. We need average grassroots people to be involved more. So, with that said, there are no further speakers, and I thank. Oh, we have two more. Oh, I didn't see. We have 4 more. Where'd you come from? Okay. Rachael Fauss. I'm sorry. Rachael Fauss, Citizens Union. Prudence Katze. Is it Kates or Katz? Reinvent Albany. Oh, we have a great panel. I didn't know. Robert LaScalzo, Whitestone, New York, Media Design Company, and Nicholas Smokey, representing himself from Manhattan. Okay, that's okay.
So you want to go down the line here?
Somebody else can start.
Okay. Okay, I'll start.
You start and identify yourself.
Good afternoon, Chair Vacca and Councilmember Palma. My name is Rachael Fauss, and I'm the Policy and Research Manager of Citizens Union. We're a nonpartisan good government dedicated to making democracy work for all New Yorkers. We're very pleased that the Committee on Technology is focusing its first hearing of this new session on webcasting with the enactment of Local Law 103 last
Can I interrupt 1 minute?
December.
Your testimony looks great, but it's very, very long.
I'm not going to read verbatim,
all
don't
right.
worry.
I feel better.
Don't worry.
But thank you. It's very concise, but I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. I understand. So we were big supporters when the law passed, so I just wanted to give that history. We've also met with the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment on multiple occasions. We found them to be very helpful and interested in the public in terms of how they can do a better job. We also advocated for the City Board of Elections to webcast, and for those of you who may not know, they actually have announced at their last meeting they plan to do webcasting, so that's a very important thing. And the Transparency Working Group, I know some of the members couldn't be here today, NYPIRG and Beta NYC, although actually we have one Beta NYC person here. There are other groups, civic and technology groups, that couldn't be here, so I just wanted to acknowledge them. So we also have communicated with the Mayor's Office, Deputy Mayor Shores, as of the Transparency Working Group, and Jeff Merritt, who testified about the importance of the implementation of this law. We'd like to see a more detailed plan presented, but we look forward to seeing what happens after the March deadline. I wanted to provide, as part of our testimony, we actually made our own inventory of the city agencies that have frequent meetings and hearings. We provided this to the committee a couple of years ago when the bill was first being considered, but there's actually more than 30 agencies, commissions, boards, etc., that hold frequent meetings that aren't currently webcasting. There are some that do. I know the CFB testified today. The council led by example, which was very important. The 5 pension boards of the city also do webcast their hearings and meetings, so I wanted to make sure to mention them. And I think there's a lot that can be learned from those agencies that are already doing this really important work. There are some agencies that don't webcast and I think have a very high value to the public given their frequent meetings. The City Planning Commission, the Panel for Educational Policy, the Department of Transportation, Landmarks Preservation Commission, Board of Standards and Appeals. A lot of agencies that do very important land use decision-making and policy decisions that don't webcast. There could be a tiered approach where agencies that have a high value to the public start first, the ones that have very frequent regular meetings, and then eventually working towards agencies that maybe only have a public hearing irregularly. So that's a possible way of looking at implementing this law. We think there's possible cost savings and synergies. There could be cheaper webcasting services done if there's the city's bulk purchasing power is leveraged. We wanted to mention, again, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, in addition to Do It, as being an agency that could be helpful because of the great work they've done with us. And quickly, I wanted to mention some best practices in webcasting. I think one of the community board members mentioned that associated materials often are very helpful for the public to understand. If they can't be in there in person, they might not have the documents in front of them. But actually other cities have done this when they've done webcasting of meetings and hearings. Actually even the State Assembly in Albany, not a model of transparency always, they actually have transcripts and associated materials up with the video of their hearings and meetings. So that's something to consider too, that the city should look at. Searchability of the video and the associated materials is also a good best practice. And then, also one-stop shopping for the video. I was pleased to hear that Jeff Merritt mentioned that they were looking at a single portal. We think that's very important so the public can know where to look. They might not know the difference between one board and another board, but they know that they're interested in a particular topic, and if they can find it in one place, that makes it a lot easier. Additionally, we believe that there should be a comprehensive list of the city entities that are subject to this law that is released. I know that it was mentioned the law department is vetting agencies on a case-by-case basis by Borough President Brewer, but that list of agencies that are subject to the law should be made available to the public and the council. We think that would help with oversight for the groups like ours that are interested in this issue. In terms of the policy, just one thing that might be worth considering is that it's not just the individual members of the public who watch, who are recorded on the tally of, there's 14 people watching this hearing. It may not seem like a large number, but when you think about members of the press and civic organizations, that gets distributed out much further. One member of the press watching an event could write an article about something that's happening and have a very wide distribution range. So something to consider is that the numbers, even though they may seem small, are actually much, much bigger in terms of the ultimate reach. And lastly, on Intro 28, we don't currently have a position on that bill, but we're very glad to hear that this hearing is looking both at implementation of Local Law 103 and that bill together. I think there's a lot that can be learned from what the city agencies are doing now to help community boards. As I mentioned, we don't have a position, but we wanted to provide some initial thought that we had. Obviously, the costs are a potential concern. I would flag, however, that we support independent budgeting for community boards. I know that would be certainly something that community boards would be very, very supportive of and would help them implement not only this initiative but also other things that they would like to do. Community board meetings, they are in the evening, unlike some of the city meetings, which are during the day. But again, when you have archival video, that provides greater accessibility, even for not everyone can come out to an evening meeting either necessarily. Again, looking at possible synergies for cost savings, having the boards look at these things together. I know there have been discussions about the boards looking at possibly, for example, having websites that are shared among each other so that there's a platform that they can all share and use. Something similar could be done for webcasting. And the last point we wanted to make is on the implementation date. The enactment date of the legislation is 90 days. Depending on when the council looks at passing this bill, that might be something you want to consider lengthening if it's not quite ready in time to allow the plans to develop. So thank you very much. I'm happy to testify.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Vacca, other members of the Technology Committee, for holding this timely hearing. My name is Prudence, and I'm testifying on behalf of Reinvent Albany, where I am the policy coordinator and also on behalf of the New York Public Interest Research Group. Our group's co-chair, as Rachael mentioned, the New York City Transparency Working Group. We strongly support New York City's renewed efforts to make the webcasting of public meetings a regular feature of city government. So now I have some brief testimony on the two webcasting initiatives the committee is looking at today. Local Law 103 of 2013 requires public meetings of agencies, committees, commissions, task force, and city council meetings to be webcast. The law was enacted on December 2nd, and it's supposed to be implemented by March 2nd, 2014, which is next Sunday. The webcasting technology is relatively inexpensive and easy to deploy. 90 days is not enough time for Mayor de Blasio's newly formed administration to meet the law's requirements and to get all city government entities webcasting their meetings. Instead, we recommend that de Blasio administration starts with the approximately 30 agencies, commissions, and boards that hold regular meetings in the same location. Given the relatively modest expense and short timeline for implementation, we recommend that the city retain a vendor for this first group of agencies. Based on the Campaign Finance Board's webcasting costs of $350 per month, we estimate that it would cost between $110,000 and $150,000 a year to contract with a major commercial vendor to webcast this first group of agencies. For the roughly 40 agencies that hold irregularly scheduled public meetings at a variety of locations, it may be less expensive for the city to develop its own webcasting capacity, perhaps in conjunction with CUNY. We suggest that the council ask the administration to report back on the cost and benefits of different webcasting practices and vendors for both this law and Intro 28, which requires webcasting of community board meetings. I wanted to echo Rachael. At the moment, no comprehensive list of all of the agencies, boards, and commissions that are subject to Local Law 103 is available to the public. We join our colleagues in asking the council to request from the Law Department that comprehensive list. Citizens Union has recommended a number of good ideas for how the city's webcasting should work. We like them all, but in particular, we want to highlight our support for having all webcasts archived in one location, as Jeff Merritt also mentioned, where they are easy to find and catalog. That location can also be linked to from agency websites. We appreciate Citizens Union's thoughtful research and thank them for their early and steadfast support for webcasting legislation. On to Intro 28. So we are glad to see Council continue to push for more webcasting, and we support the basic intent behind Intro 28. However, before the bill goes to vote, we would like to see Council work with the administration to answer a number of important questions about how it could be most effectively implemented. We believe that webcasting community board meetings is completely 100% practicable with some advanced planning and discussion. However, at the moment, we think it is fairly likely that some community boards do not have the wherewithal or resources to successfully comply with the proposed law. Therefore, we recommend that before passing this law and imposing this mandate, Council ask the administration to prepare a brief feasibility study that assesses various alternatives and recommends the best process and technology for getting the board meetings webcast. That study should be completed in the next 3 to 6 months and should clarify the roles and responsibilities of the community boards, Borough President, and Mayor's office in implementing the proposed webcasting law. The study will also answer important questions about who will pay for the webcasting and online archiving, oversee implementation, and ensure that problems are solved. The study will also inform the discussion between Council, the Mayor's office, Borough Presidents, and the boards before this legislative mandate is imposed. By spending more time planning how to make webcasting as easy and as practical as possible for the boards, Council can eliminate the where practical loophole from the webcasting requirement. We also recommend that the law takes effect 180 days, not 90 days after passage, and that Council hold firm to that deadline. 90 days is too short, and the short deadline can be used as an excuse by the boards or other responsible parties not to comply with the future webcasting requirement. Thank you again for inviting Reinvent Albany to testify today.
Yes, sir.
Sure. My name is Nicholas Smolney. Apologies for the bad penmanship. I'm representing myself, but I am a member and chair of the Public Safety and Environment Commission at Manhattan Community Board number 6, as well as a technology professional. I was told that maybe the chair would come and talk, so that's why I'm representing myself. You know, I like to keep tabs on a lot of different city agencies, whether it's for my committee or just in general, and it's impossible to be in 2 places at once. So, you know, I definitely understand that. But being a technology professional, you know, many of the organizations that I belong to, they all webcast. You know, they only have room for 100 people in a room, but you know their audience is much larger. So it's something that I'm used to doing. It's something that people of my generation are used to doing. One of the groups that I'm involved with is Beta NYC. It's a 1,600 member organization, and they've been instrumental in getting some of the city agency data once it's released out to the general public. We've built smartphone apps. We've had hackathons so people can come up with new ideas about how to get this information out there. And in discussing with them, we are overwhelmingly in support of webcasting, and particularly at the community board level. We're not sure how we're going to use the video, but we definitely want to get it out there to the public. And as it's been seen in the past, once it's out there, people can ideate on it and come up with really interesting ways to use it. And then going back to just being a general community board member, I like to see what the other community boards are doing. 4, 5, 1, 2, and 3 here in Manhattan. I can't be there, but it's nice to be able to see it. If I'm ill, or if one of myself or a member is traveling, they can still see the meeting in real time, or even after the fact is great. And it's a great way for me to tell my neighbors and fellow residents what's going on. They can see it for themselves. So I'm overwhelmingly in support of Intro 28, provided that it gets the funding and support that it really needs. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sir?
I'm last. I'm Robert LaScalzo, graduate of New York University's Film and Television program, multiple Telly Award-winning producer of corporate media, and I've actually recorded numerous meetings at community boards, so I'm a person who is familiar with what it would take to go in there and get the job done. I have some ideas and questions about how this could be implemented, and when you come in here, you have to check a box. You either support the proposition or you oppose it. I kind of support it, but have these grave concerns about implementation, a lot of which you've already heard. I think turning community boards into producers and camera people and audio technicians is not the way to go, and that New York City is the media capital of the world. We've got a pool of people that are prepared and equipped to do that work, and they would be willing to do that if there was a budget available. But let me just run down some of the ideas that I had here. A lot of this has been covered, but agencies other than community boards meet in their own spaces where they can pre-install the cameras, the audio systems,
For example, here you have multiple cameras pointing where they need to be and individual microphones for each and every speaker. And don't underestimate the importance of having a microphone right next to everyone's mouth. That delivers a reasonably high level of quality because in the end you can see and hear everything that goes on here in the hearing. By contrast, community boards meet in places that they don't own. So any video equipment has to be brought in for each meeting and removed when it's done. The idea of the red wagon that came up a couple of hours ago here. So at what level are you going to bring in the red wagon? What qualifies as a worthwhile result, considering that this would be city funded? Is it an iPhone video that's just mounted up with Velcro on the wall in the same place every time? Or is some better effort going to be made to actually create a situation not as extravagant as you have in this room, but at least it would deliver some quality? And in reviewing the transcript of the hearing that was held last year for the prior legislation, there was discussion of purchasing digital video cameras like this and training district managers or someone else on the staff of a board to set them up. And you'd have to train them to download and upload the data from the camera to wherever it needs to go. That kind of solution would give the boards a way to comply with the legislation, but it's problematic and I think not the best quality. First, the community board where I live, Community Board 7 in Queens, does not even maintain a website. And they have problems implementing just a functioning microphone during their meetings, let alone the capacity to make digital video recordings and then manage the data that comes out of that. Second, even if a community board has the capacity to use equipment, staff would be busy during the meeting so that they will simply set up a camera in a locked-off, safe position with a wide view, and that the speakers that are transacting business in the meeting would hardly be seen. They'll be the size of pinpricks on the screen. And there would be no provision to properly capture and record the sound. That's not the way you want to do this. Most community boards, by the way, use a microphone and an amplifier. From what I've seen, it's generally one microphone at a podium, and then there's an amplifier. At the very least, what you want to do to record this properly is get a microphone like this near the loudspeaker that's emitting the sound, but invariably, that will not be a good place for the camera to be. So we place a microphone with either a long cable that goes to the camera, or we use a radio transmitter and a receiver on the camera to get the signal from the one place to the other. This is not something that a community board district manager should be concerned with learning or implementing or troubleshooting when inevitably things go wrong on the day. Plus, a single camera really should pan onto whoever it is that's speaking during a board meeting. And each community board is configured physically differently. I've seen horseshoe arrangements, I've seen L-shaped arrangements or audience arrangements in terms of how they use the space. So recording it properly requires an assessment of the possibilities and some knowledge of the technical solutions that could be brought to bear. In Queens, you have 14 community boards. That's 14 meetings per month at least, 10 months per year. To record those meetings at a decent level of quality, sparing district managers the burden of the labor, the city could hire a video specialist for each borough, who would then scout the venues, liaise with the community boards, and be the point of contact for community boards to call and say, hey, we have a meeting next month on this date, and to agree in advance on the placement of equipment so it's not obtrusive and so forth. And then that person could record some meetings and hire additional technicians as necessary. But make an outside person or entity responsible for the proper implementation. I think, like Prudence said, that would cost roughly $150,000 annually for each borough, which in the grand scheme of things, to see this done right, is not that much. Lastly, if the idea here is to provide greater transparency concerning community boards, why not start by requiring them to maintain websites and to post all the documents before and after meetings, and all the testimony that comes in that goes into a black hole and we never see. Perhaps even transcripts of meetings. All of the other agencies that were required to add video streaming initially already had websites, and they already had transcripts of their meetings. So you were starting from that foundation, which for many purposes is good enough. And the video is meant to enhance and embellish that. Thank you.
Very good ideas. Thank you. It's a learning process, and we all learn. So I thank you for all your help and your recommendations. Thank you. We have one more gentleman, Charlie McPhee. He's our final speaker.
might have seen me walk in late, but I haven't missed a meeting because I was sitting in my office and I came in on the Beta NYC list and I was able to tune in, and so I've been watching, and even as I walked down here I was listening to it on my phone all the way until they made me put my phone down when I walked in downstairs. My name is Jolly McPhee. I'm with the Internet Society New York chapter. I pioneered webcasting of this committee, first recording it, and then was helped by Lou Klepner, who was the first person to put it up live, followed by Sam Wong, who was an intern for Gale Brewer. So always taken a keen interest in this. I run webcasting for the Internet Society globally. We've got like 100 chapters, and so I'm dealing with chapters all over the world that have very limited resources and in all sorts of places. And my basic technique is that we have live stream channels, one or more. And so what I get them is I get a feed from them. I can either feed the channel, but I manage what they do. I give them the client software, they can feed the channel. Sometimes things go wrong. The best I can get is someone with a phone or a Skype or something. I Skype them in, I capture them off the screen, I feed it into the channel. So what I'm saying is that basically we've got a central office where we can grab whatever we can get from these people and then put it out onto our streams and record it and deal with it and then slice it and dice it and chop it up and archive it. So all they have to do is get it to us. We sit there, and as long as they can, and if it's the worst situation, just put your phone on and we'll listen to your phone. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. So what I'm saying is you can establish an office which basically grabs the material and puts it out, instead of having everybody having their individual relationship to set it out. So that's my basic suggestion to you. A couple of anecdotes. Just recently, I also webcast a lot of things in the city. I had to do a thing from the new media center, the city's media center down in Dumbo. They said, oh, we don't have any connection, you can't webcast from here. I walked in and they said, sorry, no streaming, no streaming. It's not a problem, we just plug in the phone, tether to the phone, away we go. With phones, with LTE, you basically can go anywhere you want. If you don't have cameras and anything, you can just set up a laptop with and plug it into a phone, and you can go. There's always a way, where there's a will, there's a way, always. And so, there's a lot of flexibility with that. So, just on the general comment on webcasting, live, the thing about live is you don't always get many viewers, but most of the people who want to see the thing will watch within 12 hours to 24 hours. They're aware of it, they miss it, they want to catch up. And that's where, and then after that it's like way into the distance where people are wanting to find it, and that's where transcripts come in as well, that people can search transcripts and then go back and find something and look. And as far as accessibility goes for the disabled and all this sort of thing, you've got to build transcription into your budget, to have that there for both reasons, for accessibility and for searchability. And that's my lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank Annabel Palma for staying the entire time, and thank her very much for that. There are no further witnesses, so therefore it is now 3:25 approximately, and this hearing is now adjourned. I thank you all.